Hello, everyone. My name is Cheryl Hicks, and I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Toilet Board Coalition. We're a business-led coalition building the sanitation economy and supporting business solutions for sanitation and hygiene. And we've kicked off this video series to share from the businesses that are part of the coalition the various solutions that we've been working on together with the various partners at the Toilet Board Coalition over the past 5 years, but also what has changed due to COVID-19 in sanitation and hygiene, and where we see the future outlook for business and where new business solutions will be needed. And I'm really happy to have here with me today Ishtpreet Singh, who is the Global Brand Director for Domestos at Unilever. And Unilever is one of our co-founders, really at the beginning of the genesis of the Toilet Board Coalition and the need for business collaboration to address the global sanitation crisis, which has now become a global crisis on hygiene and sanitation. Ishtpreet, can you share with us really some of the work that we've been doing on the business solutions for the sanitation economy, the particular role that Unilever is playing?
First of all, thanks, Cheryl, for having me over. I think a lot has changed in the last, since the start of the year. And you can't believe that almost 6 months have passed. It seems that quite a bit of a lifetime has passed in the last 6 months, the new work environment and the new ways of working that we are experiencing these days. Just before I come to the specific question on the living in a COVID world, both from a business as well as from a hygiene lens point of view, I think first to note what we have been doing so far with Toilet Board Coalitions. As you rightly pointed out, Unilever was one of the founding members of the Toilet Board Coalition. And we've always seen Toilet Board Coalition as a way to drive entrepreneurship in a much needed sector, which is the sanitation sector, where there is still a significant portion of population that does not have access to safe sanitation, especially in the developing world. So as per our understanding, more than 1 billion people do not have access to their own personal toilets, and that creates a massive issue. Plus, there have been very critical issues that in places also where a lot of sanitation infrastructure has been built up, like places like India, there's a crying need from operations and maintenance point of view of saying that all the toilets which have been built and how does one take care of it in the new, because the more developed world of a connected sewage system does not exist over there. So therefore, from fecal sludge management to creating the habit of how to keep your toilet clean and hygienic for use becomes critical to ensure that people who are starting to use toilets more at home don't fall out of that habit. So those were the things that we have been working with Toilet Board Coalition. Apart from being the global founding member, we are also the founding members for the India chapter for Toilet Board Coalition, and that's been the focus. As people who've been following Toilet Board Coalition know that Unilever has a massive initiative on ground through Domestos in terms of building and maintaining school sanitation in certain countries like South Africa, Vietnam, Philippines, and all. And over there, we look to work with entrepreneurs and partners who can take care of the operational aspect of it, because that's not what the core strength of Unilever is, and partner with us to ensure that school kids, who are one of the most vulnerable set of lack of proper sanitation, have access to good quality sanitation, because that really otherwise hampers their educational progress as well as their health as well. So that is a critical part of the core purpose on which Domestos is built, which is on war on poor sanitation. Coming to the COVID world, a lot has changed, and I do believe that right now anyone who's trying to predict what will happen now from it would only be speculative. But what we can discuss now is what are the current trends that we are seeing in this particular thing. I think there are two aspects. I think first, you need to recognize that there are countries which are deeply impacted, and there are countries which did not get as much impacted by COVID. And there aren't those two sets, and we are seeing very different consumer behavior change in that. In the countries which is majority of the countries which have got deeply impacted with COVID, which is mostly Western Europe, US, LATAM now, and South Asia, which have become the epicenter. We are seeing the first thing is that as Unilever, we always struggle to underscore the importance of hygiene and knowledge about germs, because the language did not exist, especially in the D&E world. Certainly, we have come across consumers who are don't understand germs, but also now, because of the massive awareness campaign around COVID-19, which governments have undertaken, also understand basic hygiene steps, which is hand washing, social distancing, covering of face, using face mask to reduce the spread of infection. And there's also a lot of information, and there's also a bit of misinformation on how the disease works and spreads around. And therefore you have a much more aware consumer set to deal with as compared to what you had previously. In more developed countries like Western Europe, where the knowledge and understanding of germs and viruses was already quite high, certainly consumers have come to two realizations. One is that hygiene is not just important inside your home or around you, but also globally, because COVID lays bare to the fact that a disease can originate in one part of the world, and given the globalization context, can very soon reach your doorstep. So countries have an obligation to ensure that hygiene practices are followed, not just in their countries and in consumers' home, but around the globe. And that's the rising awareness that we are seeing. Second aspect which is coming is because they were already very germ-aware set of consumers, they're also now becoming more nuanced in terms of what kind of viruses and what kind of diseases are the ones that they need to really watch out for. And that is coming into the lexicon now in that way. So virus, bacteria, key differences, all is something which consumers are aware of. Coming back to the impact from a sanitation and a hygiene lens point of view. One, obviously, what we are seeing is that there is an increased overall awareness on hygiene, and sanitation forms a core aspect of hygiene. And therefore, there is a clear concern of how do you ensure that the right sanitation infrastructure exists, and there's the right sanitation behavior which is there spread across consumers. And there's an overall concern for hygiene per se, which comes across and saying that what are the hotspots from which these disease outbreaks can start off or spread very quickly. And therefore the need for public hygiene becomes extremely important. So we see a lot of conversation happening on surface hygiene. We see a lot of conversation happening on taking care of the most vulnerable, which is the healthcare centers and the doctors and who are at the front line, and what kind of facilities, or even elderlies and home cares in Western Europe. So there's a very elevated sense of awareness on who needs to be protected and how and what needs to be done in that ways. We are seeing governments step up. We are seeing a step up consumers who are happy for organizations and governments to lead these efforts. And that's an ongoing trend that we continue to see going forward. What becomes extremely important is to understand where the solution already exists, and it's more about continuing with those, and which are the places where solutions currently don't exist, and where a public-private partnership is required from that lens. Mm-hmm. I think the key gap obviously is the developing and emerging side of countries, where the government does not have enough bandwidth or infrastructure to be able to maintain and operate those key hotspots, whether it is schools for sanitation, public health rooms, or even hospitals. Mm-hmm. And therefore that they would rely a lot on private partnership, not from an infrastructure point of view, but especially from a maintenance point of view. Mm-hmm. And that becomes extremely important. Mm-hmm. And similarly, the right kind of products which are needed. So you'll have a much higher expectation that consumers will have on what are the right products which ensure that they have the best possible product to take care of both what they're experiencing now with COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 and what they can see in the future, more resistant viruses, more virulent viruses or bacteria creating further future pandemics.
Thank you, Ishtpreet. You know, a lot of work being done, and you were just saying, I think before we started recording, that it's been such an intense time, and of course Unilever is really at the front lines, doing so much to scale up and meet the demand. So first of all, congratulations to all of you. And you know, on the solution side, I think one of the things that you mentioned was the business-to-business partnerships that the Toilet Board Coalition really has tried to foster. And, Unilever over the years has mentored many businesses and really formed many strategic partnerships with those small businesses, which we think is a really exciting model for the future. And to your last point, for the public-private partnerships and new types of partnerships that will be needed for the new demand. And, going back years now, but I mean, you've mentored companies with innovative service models, container-based sanitation, public toilet models, and connected hygiene centers, circular economy models, reusing sanitation resources for energy and fuel. And you personally have been mentoring this year, Ishtpreet. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the solution that you're working on and the company that you're working with. And you also mentioned school sanitation in South Africa, and would love to hear a little bit about that program as two really interesting solutions for the future.
Sure. So Cheryl, what you're referring to is the school sanitation program that Domestos is running in South Africa, where we reach out to over 3,000 schools and provide with them both janitorial services as well as janitorial training, as well as our product to keep the toilet hygienic and clean. The unfortunate news is that there are still schools in South Africa which still have pit latrines, but that thing is becoming more and more of the past. But then there's an increased need of ensuring that once the infrastructure has been built, that you are building a very clear maintenance strategy to it so that it does not go into disrepair and misuse. Keeping that in mind, we wanted to work with new partners who can, as I said earlier on, we don't specialize in operational aspect of it. We are not a servicing organization. Therefore, we want to partner with entrepreneurs who can work with us and take this forward. So right now we have tapped into from the mentorship program, the Toilet Boat Accelerator program, H2O Sanitation, which is a Cape Town based startup, which is on sanitation. Their current focus obviously is more on community toilets and public toilets, but very similar zone in terms of maintaining and managing that. So we have given a very clear brief to them in terms of what is expected. The good thing is because we've been doing this for quite some time, we have very clear ideas in terms of costs and what we can do. And ask them either to first replicate what we are already doing so that we can partner with them and expand to more schools, and with a certain amount of seed money from our side to begin with. And in case they really want to take it all on, then show us what is the extra value that they can add and not just match. So therefore, both the places are available for them to take on and build on. We've had a very encouraging response from them. They've already met with the local team, the local organization that Unilever has in South Africa, and they're already working towards a small pilot to begin with to start it off. It's been a bit slow because schools are closed, so that is something not in our hands. But hopefully by end of the year, that problem will be sorted once we have passed the pandemic, and we look forward to sharing.
And even more important, once those schools open.
Yes. So one of the good things that we have done as Domestos is that we are very well aware of the challenges with school reopening. So we have done, and we are working with partners like them and GIZ as well, to create a full module for school opening, of saying that how the schools can prepare themselves to ensure that they are protected against a virus outbreak once it is done. So how do you hygienically prepare schools for a reopening? And that's the work that we are doing with them and with DFID as well, in terms of building the material and spreading it through the NGOs.
Fantastic. And how do you see these partnerships going forward? I think from the learnings of this way of working, I think that it's really unique, the way Unilever is partnering with these enterprises, and how do you see that moving forward? What would be your advice for other companies that are looking to form these new types of partnerships to really address this new demand with speed and scale?
Yeah. So I think it's basically ensuring that you have a good fit and you partner with people who are complementary in that way. We were very clear that school sanitation is something which is at the core of what the business and brand believes in, and really would make a societal impact. And therefore, that is something that we wanted to pick up, and hence we were always looking at partners. So while we knew that we had the product, we also knew that just handing over the product is not important. We had to create a behavior change, both through educating the janitorial staff over there, as well as the school boards over there, on why the importance of keeping the toilet clean and hygienic from that lens. And that's what we are trying to do. But those also help a bit from a Unilever lens point of view. But where the partner really helps is basically managing the operational aspect of it. Because typically all of these maintenance aspect or anything which is to deal with on-ground stuff is a very resource-intensive exercise, and that is not something which most of the large organizations are designed to do, because they have to be much more closer to ground. I think it's if we were to advise someone who are looking for this, I think when you look at an entrepreneurship, look at what is the gap in your capabilities and where does an entrepreneur can help and lock it. Be patient to begin with, because they will require some time getting used to on how to get in on board. So have a year-long program at least, but at the same point in time, start with very clear KPIs on what you want them to achieve. And after that, it's all about whether you can scale. See, ultimately, the real joy will come not just in seeding and incubating them into this partnership, but the real win-win comes in when they're able to scale. And what is really good about this is that if you have the right entrepreneur partner and you build in the right skill set, they can attract other sources of funding, which can be a multiplier effect for what you are trying to run. And that's then becomes a viable model. So in a way, you have created a small capability, and then with the capability, they can use that as a way to build in their business case on how this can be a more sustainable part of it. But at the heart of it, complementary relationship, patience at the start with clear KPIs, and then ensuring that whatever you do is scalable and hence sustainable.
Thank you, Ishpreet. You're referring to our accelerator program, and just to say a few words about that for those that might not know about it, we developed an accelerator program specifically for sanitation business solutions, delivering access to sanitation through the market, and now also developing new circular sanitation solutions and digital sanitation solutions as well as part of our sanitation economy vision. And this partnership model is, as you said, an annual model where large companies like Unilever and our other large company members select entrepreneurs, select small businesses, as you're saying, that have a complementary offering, and is a partnership that can help to advance both businesses. And we're really seeing that this is having a tremendous impact on that local business, on the local economy, and on demonstrating that that business has a role to play in helping to address the global sanitation and now hygiene crises, because they bring innovation, and they bring cost recovery and value generating models. And a big thank you to Unilever for spearheading this program and supporting so many businesses, and we really look forward to the partnerships that we will work on together in the future. So thank you so much, Ishpreet, for sharing with us today these solutions.
Thank you, Cheryl, for having me.
Thank you, and namaste.
Namaste.